Hello. So this is going to be part three, I guess, of my travel advice. Very specifically today, I wanted to talk about budgets, how to budget, how to um, stick to tracking your expenses and that kind of thing. It's not going to be anything about how to save money. I'm thinking I might make a video about that in the future, but anyways. So yeah, so I now on this current trip in Mexico have been here just over a month, and just to show you briefly, this was my original budget. So it looked like this. Um, that's that's essentially it. So on this specific trip, I meant to be here 160 days. So that's roughly 6 months. And I just kind of looked at sort of the main expenses that I would have: food, transport, um, room, and then I always give myself a miscellaneous category. I've also added scuba diving because I will be doing my master dive, and that's going to be sort of a bigger expense. The only thing I did not include with this was the dentist, because at the last moment before I left Canada this time, I had some issues with one of my teeth, and then I went to the dentist, and then they realized I had a whole bunch of other things, so I thought I might as well do it because it's quite cheap and good here in Mexico. So I've already spent about 400 Canadian dollars on the dentist, which was not something I had planned to do. But you know, I'm aware of it and I'm keeping track, so it's gonna be fine. But these are the kind of things you have to sort of work around. So when it comes to budgeting and staying to your budget, first of all, you have to plan. So it's pretty easy. You just kind of like figure out what your main expenses are going to be, kind of roughly make an estimate. I usually try to overestimate and usually come up with like a daily budget. So with this one, the full budget was somewhere between sort of 3 and 5,000 Canadian dollars for 6 months. That's not including my flights or anything, and the difference being just depending how much the scuba diving is going to be. So that roughly is about $21 a day if you don't count the scuba diving bit. So I'm trying to stick to that, and really with that, so I've kind of planned it now. And then this next step with budgeting when you're traveling or just whatever is to monitor, are you actually spending what you planned on spending? So I've just kind of gone in and looked at basically how much cash I've withdrawn from the ATM. Some of it I haven't spent yet, but then I had cash at the beginning, so it's more or less accurate, and I'm pretty well on track. I've kind of done the math, and I'm somewhere between 21 Canadian dollars a day at the moment. I thought it would be a bit less since I'm not paying for rent at the moment, but again, I spent $400 at the dentist, so that's a big thing that I'm gonna have to sort of adjust. So that's the thing: you plan, you monitor, and then you adjust. So right now, I'm probably just gonna do a little bit less in terms of like day trips and stuff like that, just to kind of make up for the unseen expense. It's not too much of a big deal because I did have sort of a unknown expense sort of like budgeted in before, but yeah, so plan, monitor, adjust, and then make a new plan. So that's what I'm doing now. I've basically spent just over $900 Canadian, and I've been here, and that's just about 40 days so far. And so yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And another thing, when you make these budgets and you realize maybe you are over budget, you do have to sort of make choices and sacrifice on something if you want to stick to your budget. If you don't need to, if it was just kind of like a guideline, then that's fine, as long as you know that you're going over budget, and that if that's okay for you, then fine. But usually I try to stick to my budget. I usually want to be under budget, obviously. And then the great thing about that is that if you are under budget, you can either just kind of have mad money and do something super fun. Like I'm looking at skydiving right now. It's 3,500 pesos, I think. So we'll see. Actually, it might be 6,000 pesos. But anyways, yeah. So it's gonna be quite expensive if I want to go skydiving. But we are gonna look at that in another month. See how much I've been spending. See if I can afford that. And if I don't decide to do that and I am under budget, then you know what, you can always keep that for some sort of future project or trip. You don't need to spend the money that you thought you would be spending. It's okay to spend less. Spending more is a bit more of an issue, especially if you don't have it. Yeah, so that's my video about sort of how to track your budget while you travel. That's pretty much it. If you're working on a cash basis, it's quite easy. You just see how much cash you've been taking out, how many days it's been, and see, you know, if you're sticking to your, you know, daily budget. That's usually the best thing for travel. Just each day you want to be around whatever target sort of thing. You know, it can carry over, you know, one day maybe you don't spend as much, one day you spend a bit more, but you want it to average out to be roughly, you know, whatever you can afford. So yeah, so that's my video with that. I don't know if it was helpful, hopefully, and hope you enjoyed.